What happens when Hollywood royalty meets late-night television's most controversial host, and the conversation takes a turn nobody saw coming? Tonight, we dive into one of the most explosive television moments in recent memory, where careful PR training collided headfirst with unfiltered commentary, creating a spectacle that had viewers glued to their screens and social media erupting within minutes. Make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments because this story gets intense fast. The studio lights blazed hot under the familiar set of real-time where Bill Maher leaned back in his chair with that signature smirk that has launched 1,000 controversies. Across from him, Meghan Markle adjusted her posture, every inch the polished duchess, despite having left royal duties behind. The audience buzzed with anticipation, sensing this wasn't going to be just another softball celebrity interview. So, Meghan Markle began, his voice carrying that familiar edge. "You've talked a lot about your truth, your experience, but I have to ask, when does personal truth become, well, convenient truth?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Meghan's media training kicked in immediately, her smile never wavering, even as her eyes sharpened. "I think when you've lived through what I've lived through, Bill, truth isn't convenient, it's survival." "Survival," Marr repeated, rolling the word around like he was tasting wine. "That's interesting language for someone who married into arguably the most privileged family on the planet. Privilege doesn't protect you from racism, Bill. It doesn't shield you from having your mental health ignored when you're crying out for help." Meghan's voice remained steady, but there was steel underneath now. Marr leaned forward, sensing an opening. "But here's what I don't get, and maybe you can help me understand this. You knew what you were getting into, right? I mean, you're an actress, you understand media, you understand public life. Did you really think marrying a prince was going to be like some Disney movie?" The audience stirred. This wasn't the respectful interview format most talk shows offered. This was Marr doing what Marr does, poking at uncomfortable truths. "I thought I was marrying the man I loved," Meghan replied, her composure still intact but with an edge creeping in. "I didn't think that loving someone would make me a target for the kind of hatred I experienced." "Hatred," Marr said, making air quotes, "or criticism. Because in America, we have this thing where we can criticize public figures. It's called the First Amendment. Maybe you forgot about that during your time across the pond." The studio fell silent except for the hum of cameras. Meghan's professional smile flickered for just a moment. "There's a difference between criticism and coordinated harassment. Bill, there's a difference between holding someone accountable and trying to destroy them." "Destroy you?" Marr's eyebrows shot up theatrically. "You got a Netflix deal worth millions. You've got a Spotify deal. You're living in a mansion in Montecito. If that's destruction, sign me up. Money doesn't heal trauma." Bill Meghan's voice was quieter now, but it carried further somehow. "Success doesn't erase the nights. You can't sleep because you're afraid of what lies they'll print about you tomorrow." Marr paused, studying her face. The audience could feel the shift in energy, like storm clouds gathering. "You know what, Meghan? I actually believe you about the trauma. I believe you struggled. But here's my issue, and I think I speak for a lot of Americans here. You had every privilege, every advantage, and when things got tough, instead of fighting through it, you ran, and then you spent the next few years telling everyone how unfair it all was." The words hit like a slap. Meghan's carefully maintained composure cracked just slightly. "I didn't run, Bill. I protected my family. You protected your brand," Marr shot back. "There's a difference. And you've been monetizing your victimhood ever since." "Monetizing my victimhood?" Meghan's voice rose for the first time, her media training finally failing her. "I've been trying to use my platform to help people, to shine a light on issues that matter. By trashing your husband's family on international television, by making his grandmother's final years about your feelings, that's helping people." The studio was dead quiet now. Even the camera operators seemed to be holding their breath. Meghan's hands, which had been folded calmly in her lap, were now gripping the arms of her chair. "His grandmother understood," Meghan said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She knew what the family was really like behind closed doors." Marr sensed blood in the water. "Really? Because from where I'm watching, it looked like a woman who devoted her entire life to service. Watching her family implode on television while dealing with her husband's death and her own declining health. But hey, I'm sure your truth is different. You don't know what you're talking about. Meghan snapped, her composure finally cracking completely. You don't know what it's like to be gaslit by an entire institution, to be told your pain doesn't matter because it's inconvenient for their image. I know what it's like to be called every name in the book, Maher replied, his voice steady and cutting. I know what it's like to have people want me fired, canceled, destroyed. The difference is, I don't go crying to Oprah about it. The comparison to Oprah hit like a physical blow. Meghan's face flushed, her carefully crafted public persona dissolving in real time. That's not fair, Bill. You know that's not fair. Maher laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Fair is when someone criticizes your work, your choices, your public statements. Unfair is when you use your race as a shield every time someone disagrees with you. The audience gasped audibly. This was the line everyone knew Maher would eventually cross, but hearing it said so bluntly still shocked them. Meghan stared at him, her mouth slightly open, processing what she'd just heard. Excuse me? Her voice was dangerously quiet now. You heard me, Maher continued, leaning back in his chair like he was just getting started. Look, I've been in this business for decades. I've seen every trick in the book, and the race card is the ultimate trump card, isn't it? Someone doesn't like your performance. Racism. Someone questions your motives. Racism. Someone points out your inconsistencies. Must be racism. My experiences with racism aren't a card I play, Bill. They're my reality. Meghan's voice was trembling now, but with anger, not sadness. When your child's security is threatened because of the color of their skin, when newspapers publish stories questioning whether your baby will be too dark, that's not playing a card. That's living in hell. And that's awful. It really is, Maher said, his tone shifting to mock sincerity. But here's what I don't understand. If it was so awful, if the racism was so terrible, why didn't you leave immediately? Why did you stick around long enough to get the royal wedding, the global platform, the connections, and then leave? It almost looks like you got what you needed and then played the victim card to explain why you were walking away. Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the studio floor. The sound was deafening in the sudden silence. I'm not going to listen to this. Oh, now you're leaving. Maher's voice dripped with theatrical surprise. Just like you left the royal family. Just like you left your father. Just like you left everyone who became inconvenient to your narrative. My father sold stories about me to the tabloids, Meghan shot back, her voice breaking slightly. He betrayed me for money. And you've been making money off that betrayal ever since, Maher replied coldly. Book deals, interviews, documentaries. You've monetized every painful moment of your life. Your father's betrayal, your struggles with the royals, your mental health issues, it's all content for you, isn't it? That's not true, Meghan whispered, but her voice lacked conviction now. The fight was draining out of her, replaced by something raw, more vulnerable, isn't it? Maher pressed on relentlessly. You turned your wedding into a global spectacle about diversity and modernizing the monarchy. You turned your struggles into an Oprah special. You turned your family drama into a Netflix series. At what point does sharing your truth become exploiting? Your trauma? I wanted to help people, Meghan said, her voice barely audible now. I wanted other people to know they weren't alone. By making your personal problems everyone else's entertainment, Maher's voice was quieter now, but no less. Cutting by turning your pain into profit. That's not helping people, Meghan. That's helping yourself. The camera zoomed in on Meghan's face, capturing the moment when her composure finally shattered completely. Tears welled up in her eyes, threatening to spill over. You don't understand what it's like to feel completely alone, to feel like everyone you trusted has turned against you. I understand perfectly, Maher replied, his voice softer now, but still unforgiving. I understand what it's like to be hated, to be misunderstood, to feel like the whole world is against you. The difference is, I don't expect the world to apologize for it. I never asked for apologies, Meghan said, wiping at her eyes quickly, trying to regain control. I asked for basic human decency. From the British tabloids, Maher laughed harshly. From the royal family, from social media, Meghan, you married into the most scrutinized family on the planet. What did you think was going to happen? That they were going to change centuries of tradition because you asked nicely, I thought. They would protect me, she admitted, her voice cracking completely now. I thought my husband would protect me. And when he didn't, you made sure the whole world knew about it, Maher said, his tone almost gentle now, which somehow made it more brutal. You aired your marriage problems on television. You talked about private conversations with your father. In law, you made your personal grievances into public entertainment. It wasn't entertainment, Meghan protested weakly. It was survival. No, Maher said firmly. Survival would have been leaving quietly, getting therapy, rebuilding your life. In private, what you did was turn your breakdown into a business model. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Meghan stared at him, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. The audience was completely silent, unsure whether they were witnessing a brutal takedown or emotional abuse in real time. I tried to do it quietly, Meghan whispered. They wouldn't let me. Every time I tried to step back, they pulled me back in. Every time I tried to find peace, they created more drama. Maher raised an eyebrow. Or you, because from where I'm watching, you've been the common denominator in every single conflict. Your father, your sister, the royal family, the British press, Harry's friends, Harry's family, everyone who gets close to you ends up being the villain in your story. Meghan's face crumpled completely now, all pretense of control gone. Maybe I am the problem, she sobbed. Maybe everyone is right about me. The admission hung in the studio air like a confession at a tribunal. Meghan's shoulders shook as she tried to compose herself, but the dam had burst completely. Maher watched her for a long moment, his expression unreadable, before leaning forward. In his chair, "You know what, Meghan?" His voice was different now, stripped of its earlier mockery. She looked up at him through her tears, mascara streaking down her cheeks, looking nothing like the polished duchess who had walked onto the set an hour earlier. "What? Self-awareness," Maher continued, his tone almost conversational now. "It's rare in Hollywood, rarer in royalty, and apparently extinct in whatever you've become. But for just a second there, you sounded like a real person instead of a brand." "I don't know how to be anything else anymore," Meghan whispered, her voice raw and broken. "I don't know who I am when I'm not defending myself, when I'm not explaining myself, when I'm not trying to control the narrative. Maybe that's your problem right there," Maher said, settling back in his chair. "You've been so busy controlling the narrative that you forgot to live the life. You've been so focused on how people see you that you stopped being someone worth." Seeing the brutal honesty of it made Meghan flinch like she'd been slapped. "I wanted my life to mean something." "Your life already meant something," Maher replied. "You needed to be a victim, and a hero and a revolutionary all at the same time." "That's not true," Meghan protested weakly, but even she didn't sound convinced anymore. "Isn't it?" Maher pressed gently. "Think about it. Every story you tell, every interview you give, you're always the protagonist. Your father is the villain. The royal family are the villains. The press are the villains. The racists are the villains. But you're always the innocent victim who somehow emerges stronger and more enlightened than everyone else." Meghan stared at him, processing his words, maybe because that's how it felt, maybe because that's how I survived it, or maybe because that's the only story you know how to tell, Maher said quietly. "The story where you're the center of the universe and everyone else is just a supporting character in your drama." The words cut deeper than all his earlier attacks combined because they rang with truth. "Stop." "What?" Maher asked, though he clearly knew the answer. "Stop making everything about me," she said, the words coming out in a rush. "Stop turning every conversation into a defense of my choices. Stop seeing every criticism as an attack on my existence." Maher nodded slowly. "That's addiction behavior, you know? Drama addiction, victim addiction, the need to always be the center of attention, even if it's negative attention." "I know," Meghan whispered. "I've known for a while, but I don't know how to live without it anymore. I don't know who I am when I'm not fighting someone, when I'm not proving something, when I'm not the story." "Maybe that's something worth figuring out," Maher said, his voice gentler than it had been all evening. "Maybe instead of telling your truth to the world, you need to figure out what your truth actually is." Meghan looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen, but somehow clearer than they'd been all night. "How do I do that? How do I stop being this person I've become?" "Same way anyone recovers from an addiction," Maher replied. "You admit you have a problem. you stop feeding the addiction, and you figure out who you are underneath all the noise. But what if there's nothing underneath? Meghan asked, her voice breaking again. What if this is all I am? What if without the drama, without the story, without the narrative, I'm just nothing? Then you'll find out, Maher said simply. And maybe nothing is better than this. Maybe quiet is better than chaos. Maybe being ordinary is better than being notorious. Meghan sat in silence for a long moment, processing everything that had been said. The studio audience watched in fascination as she seemed to shrink into herself. The larger-than-life persona deflating until she looked like just another person struggling with problems too big for her to handle. I'm tired, she said finally. I'm so tired of being angry all the time. I'm tired of feeling like everyone is against me. I'm tired of having to be strong and brave and inspirational every second of every day. Just be human for a while. I don't remember how, Meghan admitted, tears flowing freely again. I don't remember who I was before all of this started. Maybe it's time to stop performing your life and start experiencing it. Meghan nodded slowly, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I think I need help, she said quietly. Real help, not PR help, not media training, not damage control. I think I need to figure out how to be a person again. That's the smartest. The thing you've said all night? Maher said, with something that might have been respect in his voice. And you know what? It's probably the smartest thing you've said in years. Admission. For the first time in the entire interview, she looked genuinely peaceful, as if some enormous burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Thank you, she said to Maher, her voice steady for the first time all evening. I didn't want to hear any of that, but I think I needed to. Sometimes the truth is the cruelest kindness, Maher replied, but it's still kindness. I think I owe some people apologies, she said quietly. Not public apologies, not media apologies, but real ones. Private ones. To people I hurt while I was so busy defending myself. That's between you and them, Maher said, not between you and the cameras. Right? Meghan nodded. Not everything needs to be content. The profound simplicity of that statement seemed to hit her like a revelation. She looked around the studio as if seeing it clearly for the first time, taking in the cameras, the lights, the audience, all the machinery of public performance that had become her natural habitat. This is going to sound crazy, she said, turning back to Maher, but I think this might be the last interview I do for a while, maybe a long while. Why does that sound crazy? Maher asked. Because talking is what I do, Meghan replied. It's how I make money, how I stay relevant, how I control my image. If I stop talking, I stop existing in the public consciousness. And is that such a terrible thing? Maher asked gently. Meghan considered this seriously. It's terrifying, she admitted, but also, kind of liberating. Like maybe I could just be a person again instead of a public figure. People are underrated, Maher said with a smile. I highly recommend it. As the interview wound down, there was a palpable sense that something significant had happened. Not just for the cameras, but for the woman who had walked onto the set as one person and was preparing to leave as someone entirely different. Thank you, Meghan said to Maher one final time, her voice steady and clear. I know this wasn't easy to watch, and it certainly wasn't easy to experience, but I think you might have saved me from myself. You saved yourself, Maher replied. I just asked the questions you were afraid to ask. The interview ended, not with fireworks or dramatic exits, but with a moment of quiet understanding between two people who had stripped away all pretense and found something real underneath. As Meghan walked off the set, she looked lighter somehow. Was Maher too harsh? Or did Meghan need to hear these hard truths? Subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that define our culture, and let me know in the comments, do you think people can really change? Or are we all trapped by the stories we tell about ourselves?